Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a pleasant evening tonight. And we're going to be talking tonight about detox. It was a topic that came up when I queried the group. And if you are joining me tonight live, please let me know where you're joining from in the chat, in the comments. I'm going to be checking the comments as I'm delivering this talk. And if I see that your questions are coming in, I'll be able to handle them toward the end of the presentation. This is a topic that comes up often with my clients and my patients, and I feel like it's definitely a hot topic that many of you will benefit from watching. So this webinar tonight is talking about gentle detox strategies for children with ADHD or autism, mood disorders, PANS and PANDAS, and other autoimmune disorders or conditions like celiac. We'll cover the benefits of detoxification. We'll discuss toxin avoidance, and we will explore natural methods that support healthy detox pathways. The benefits of detoxification for neurodevelopmental disorders. Well, number one is to reduce any inflammation by reducing the things that trigger the inflammation. So it could be infection, or a toxic chemical or a biological toxin like from mold and yeast and other bacteria that emit toxins. So we want to detox slowly and in a certain pathway. We want to follow a certain pathway to make sure that we're not disrupting the natural ways that the body clears its toxins. And the end result is obviously to reduce inflammation, which is a common factor in many diseases and neurological disorders. We also want to have improved brain function. So by removing toxins, detoxification can support a clearer thinking and better focus. When we understand the mitochondria and what the mitochondria does, and if you see on the screen here this little yellow squiggly line, that's representing the mitochondrial organelle in the cell. This big blob here in pink supposedly is the nucleus. But you've got a big cell. Obviously the picture was truncated, but the mitochondria, you have trillions of them in the body, and those are the little organelles that create energy for the cell. So when you're consuming carbohydrates and proteins and fats, it's actually the mitochondria that have to process these nutrients, break them down into energy components so that the cells can utilize the energy to function. And because it's a highly oxygen dependent process, we can have what's called oxidative stress. Now, you may have noticed if you cut an apple, you slice an apple and you leave it sitting on the counter, after a little while, that little apple skin starts to look kind of brown, and that's oxidation, it's rusting. The same thing is happening in our cells, and the more we age, unfortunately, the more this happens, this oxidative stress. But also if your body is bombarded with stressors, whether it's life stressors or infections or other bioenvironmental stressors, all of that is going to add to the load of the mitochondria, and that causes more cell damage and mitochondrial damage. So by helping the body detox, we're also lifting that burden off the mitochondria and allowing it to function better, like more optimally, and to heal and recoup and recover. So we definitely want to work on oxidative stress. Methylation is I would say, a chemical process that happens in every cell of the body, including the DNAs, producing cells, and including in our DNA, in our nucleus. Every cellular function in the brain and the organs everywhere else is dependent on methylation. And if we don't have a well-oiled machine when it comes to methylation and sulfation, then things start to back up. And this backup creates toxicity for the cells. So it's also very important that we support the methylation cycle, because it's going to be part and parcel of how we detox. What can we say about toxin avoidance? You want to minimize, obviously, the exposure to harmful substances. You may not always be able to do that, but we can do our part by becoming aware. Where are these toxins coming from? how are we being exposed, and what can we do to mitigate the exposure as opposed to just going through our life completely unaware of what's happening, right? So with the diet, you want to limit processed foods, artificial sweeteners, and excessive sugar intake. Sugar is probably the number one toxin for our children, and we don't realize how much sugar they consume every day because it's hidden in so many processed foods that they're eating. So it's very important to look at the labels, to read the labels, and to make better choices when you're purchasing the food at the grocery store. In our environment, there are things we can do to reduce exposure to pesticides and chemicals in our home and cleaning products. For example, don't use these air spray that maybe add aroma to your home because the spray bottles are actually filled with toxins. It's so much better to maybe have a spritz bottle that you put a little bit of water in or witch hazel in and add an essential oil, and then spritz that if you want to change, let's say, the odor in the bathroom or somewhere in the home from animals. That's a much healthier, much more pure and biologically safe way to aromatize your environment. You can use diffusers. There's so many ways to use essential oils which are healthy for us, especially if you buy quality grade essential oils, not synthetic ones, right? So being aware of what chemicals are you using in your cleaning products. Are you using 409, which is full of chemicals, or are you making your own cleaner, maybe using Castile soap, some essential oils again, like lemon and orange and bergamot, or you can use witch hazel, and I like baking soda as a great vehicle to scrub with. Vinegar and lemon are all natural products that you can use in your home for cleaning. So start becoming aware of other ways to use products in your home so that you're minimizing the total exposure that you and your children are getting in your home. Personal care products, same thing. You can use Castile soap again for many uses. I use it for hand soap, for shampoo, for body wash. I use it for cleaning my home, my counters, my floors. So it's a very good, I even use it in the laundry, that Castile soap, and you can add lavender to it or any essential oil that you prefer to aromatize it and make it appealing. So by choosing products that are based on maybe charcoal or baking soda or things like that, you can definitely start shifting from using chemicals that you put on your face and your body every day, not realizing that they're loaded with toxic chemicals. Gentle detox practices for children. So what can we do to actually start pulling the toxins out? I would say, I didn't put this on the slide, but I would say number one thing is make sure they're pooping every day. Because imagine that you're eating 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day if you're snacking. But if you're not even pooping once a day, all this food and the toxic chemicals from those foods is piling up in your body and you're absorbing it into your organs. So it's really essential that we make sure our bowel movements are frequent, that we go at least once a day, maybe twice is better, 3 times is even better still. But for kids who are constipated, the first thing you need to do is to open up their bowel pathways. That is the number one mistake I find that practitioners of functional medicine don't focus on, is they start to attack liver detox, number one, instead of focusing on bowel movements as number one for detox. So very, very important that you as parents, especially if you're not working with any practitioner right now, that you understand that there is a certain order to doing detox in a proper way. And if you reverse the order, you can have major problems, and I don't recommend that. So make sure your child's pooping well. Next thing you could do is give them Epsom salt baths. Epsom salt is magnesium. It absorbs wonderfully through the skin. Again, you can add lavender to the bath, which helps relax them and they can sleep better at night. It's relaxing to the muscles. It pulls the toxins out. Now, one recommendation I have after the Epsom salt bath is shower after, rinse all the stuff out, because the toxins are still maybe sitting on the skin. And when you get out of the bath and just towel off, you're not actually pulling off all the toxins. So I would say shower and soak off all that extra toxin that may have been pulled by the Epsom salts. The number 2 tip I want to give you is lemon water. Having your child sip on lemon water throughout the day is a wonderful way to help the gallbladder excrete. And so you're pumping the gallbladder and moving any debris and any sludging that's happening there. It's also helping the liver flush out. And lemon is a great peristalsis maker in the gut, meaning it's creating sloughing of the poop off the edges of your colon and helping you to make better bowel movements, basically. So lemon water is very supportive to digestion and liver function, and it's one of the number one tips I use with my patients. Number 3 here is sauna, and you have to be very careful with the sauna because children are small and they don't handle body heat very well. Like, they can truly overheat very quickly if you're not using safe practices. So make sure if you're going into the sauna with a child, it's less than 5 minutes. Regulate the temperature, don't set it to super high. And I would say even if you just see a little bit of glistening on their forehead, that's enough to have the benefit of the sauna, and you don't need to be sitting there for hours on end. I would say 5 minutes and pull out, and then, let them shower and get cleaned up again. Maybe a safer way to sweat is actually through exercise. So if you don't have a sauna, don't worry about it. But sweating through exercise is wonderful for kids. Exercise itself has a lot of healing effects on the body. It creates endorphins and generates BDNF, which is a brain-derived neurotropic factor in the brain. So it's definitely something I love to see my kids do. Exercising is also good for the lungs, and we do exhale toxins when we are breathing faster. So it's definitely a great way to detox using exercise. Obviously, don't exercise in polluted environments. So if you're in the middle of a city at rush hour, that is not the time to exercise. I would say try to pick your hours when you're working out outdoors, because as much as outdoors is good for us, we don't want to be doing it in polluted air. Also, same goes when the pollen count is high. You may have to take it indoors and have air filtration in your home or wherever you are, just to make sure you're not breathing a lot of toxins in addition. Now, how to supplement to support the liver. So the liver detox actually goes through 2 phases, and there is a 3rd phase which we look at urination and defecation. But phase 1 is where the toxic element is being presented initially to the liver, and it needs to process it to an intermediate chemical. Let's call it that, right? So there's a phase 1 where the initial chemical comes in, it becomes an intermediate chemical, and then it goes through phase 2, and then it's excreted and completely gotten rid of out of the body. But from phase 1 to phase 2, that intermediate molecule is actually more toxic than the initial toxic agent. So it's so important that if we're going to ramp up phase 1 of liver detox, we also are ramping up phase 2, because otherwise we're actually loading the body with even more dangerous toxins and we didn't realize we're doing that. So again, you want to work with a practitioner that knows what they're doing, that's been trained in this methodology. Don't willy-nilly try to do it yourself. But I am going to mention a few things here, because people are asking me, what do you do when you detox and how do you do it, and what are some supplements that we can look at? So chlorella, cilantro, vitamin C are wonderful supporters of phase 1 liver detox, whereas milk thistle and acetylcysteine, which is a precursor to glutathione, taurine, and other amino acids are supportive of phase 2 of liver detox. But again, don't do this part alone. Please work with a practitioner who can guide you and support you properly, because things can definitely go awry in this part of the detox. I love binders with children. They may not love them themselves, but it's definitely a great way of, once you've cleared the liver and you're dumping it back into the GI tract, you want to bind it, right? You don't want all these toxins being reabsorbed through the colon and the small intestine back into the body. So we want to bind it, and we use things like activated charcoal or zeolite clay or a blend of those things. I've recently learned about citrus pectin, which has been used for a while for heavy metal toxicity, but it's really a great binder for kids as well, the citrus pectin. So you have a couple of options here. If the kids can't swallow pills, you may find that the citrus pectin is less offensive to their taste, and you could blend it with something. So in conclusion, the key takeaways are that, we can definitely do gentle detox methodologies for children, and it's better to go gentle and slow than to go fast and furious and cause a lot of dumping of these toxic chemicals into the body, which the body cannot handle at that time because it hasn't been primed properly. So it's really important to work with a practitioner when you're doing a detox protocol. But if you want to start doing Epsom salt baths and lemon water and exercise, those are definitely easy to do. You can do them as a parent. Start looking at your home. How can you avoid toxins? How can you minimize the entry of toxins into your air, into your cleaning products, your personal products, your food? And then we want to support the liver, and that's where you probably want to work with a practitioner like myself. And if you can't work with me because you're out of state for me, I hope this talk has served you, has given you some information, a clear path to follow. And I'm always happy to have a free consultation with you and help you find a practitioner in your state that you can work with. I'm widely connected with a lot of other fellow functional medicine doctors and chiropractors, nutritionists. They come from all different walks of life, really. And I'm happy to connect you with the right practitioner in your state that will help you and help your child with the goal that you have in mind. Okay, so reach out to me if you want my help, and then consider eating a anti-inflammatory diet, because we know that's the best diet out there for all of us as we're aging. It's cancer preventing, it's autoimmune preventing, and definitely highly recommended to find a quality anti-inflammatory diet that you can follow. So with that, I think our slides are done. Let me see if we have any questions in the chat. It doesn't look like we have any questions at this time. And I'm not sure if you want to leave a question after this video when you watch it on your own time, mention replay and, hashtag replay, and also leave your question. Don't be shy. I will answer your questions throughout the week. It's just a matter of knowing kind of what's on your mind. What have you encountered? What have you tried as a parent? Have you worked with a practitioner before and experienced doing these types of protocols? Do you have questions about them? Any fears or worries? And I'm here to serve. Let's do this together. Parents, you're not alone. I'm here backing you up. I'm here to give you information. And really, there's so much free information on the interwebs. Of course, you can Google everything these days, but they're not going to give it to you in the order that a practitioner can guide you, right? Like, as practitioners, we've been trained to know how to take a patient from A to Z, and we can show you all the shortcuts, and we know if problems come up during a detox or any process that we're doing, we know how to handle those problems. So you're not on your own trying to figure out, oh my gosh, my kid's having a reaction to this supplement or that food. Now what do I do? Think about those things before you do things on your own. It's not for everyone to do a DIY, and certainly I wouldn't recommend that with children because they're very sensitive. So with that, I hope you have a great evening. I hope this has served you well, and see you later. Bye-bye.